Okay, good morning team and welcome to, and I cannot believe I'm about to say this, week 7 in the geography classroom. So we've been doing this for nearly 2 months now and I'm still loving it. We have still got so much left of the world to explore. Now, I hope you enjoyed last week's session. I absolutely loved it. The marine iguanas and the fact that they can shoot salt out of their nose, I've been obsessing on it for about a week. Now, today's session, we're actually going to head somewhere a lot colder. So we're going to start to head somewhere else where the animals are incredibly different to the ones that we've been looking at in the last couple of weeks. Now, I'm going to go through the list of things that you're going to need for today's session, and then let's make a start. So, first thing you're going to need, as ever, your piece of blank paper. Okay. Second thing that you're going to need is a normal pencil, so that you can draw all the things we're going to draw today. You're going to need some colouring pencils, but mainly your browns and your greens today, and possibly a white if you've got one. You are definitely going to need a ruler. Now, I'm going to explain why in a bit, but we will definitely need a ruler for today. And then last but not least, what I need you to go and find is your map, the map that you created in lesson 1. Now, if you don't have it, it's not the end of the world. You could do this in an atlas, but if you can find that map from week 1, that would be amazing. Right, go get your bits now. I'll meet you back here. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you have now got all the things that you need. Now, we're gonna start today's session like we always do with a quiz. So, can you take your big A3 piece of paper and on one side of it, just write the numbers 1 down to 8. Now, the reason we always do this is because it really helps us to create memories around what it is that we've learned. So if there's ever a time when you're trying to learn anything and actually it's not sticking or you're finding it difficult, giving yourself little quizzes to do can be really helpful. Right, numbers 1 to 8 on the sheet. Okay, let's make a start. So I'm going to read the questions through, then I will show you them on the board. Right, question number 1. Last week, we were in the Galapagos Islands. Which country do the Galapagos Islands belong to? Okay, question number 2. Is the algae in the Galapagos Islands a producer or a consumer? So is the algae a producer or a consumer? Okay, question number 3. Is this true or false? Endemic means that an animal only lives in that one specific place. True or false? Endemic means that an animal only lives in that one specific place. Okay, question number 4. Which 2 animals in the Galapagos have a symbiotic relationship? Basically, which 2 animals were best friends? Okay, question number 5, we're going to head back a bit further now. So, what is the name of the endemic species that we studied in Borneo? So I'll give you a clue, it is my favourite animal in the whole world. Okay, question number 6. So, when we studied Botswana, we looked at a small ecosystem and we started with the long grass. What species ate the long grass? What species ate that? And what species ate that when it had died? Now, I'll show you this on the whiteboard, it might make a little more sense. But when we studied Botswana, we started our ecosystem with the long grass. What were the species that then ate the long grass? What ate that? And then what ate that when it began to decompose? Okay, and last but not least, this one's a little bit easier. How many scientists live in Antarctica? And what was the reason why there were so few? Okay, go back through, pause it if you need to, take your time, work the questions through. Okay, so I've just realised that I completely forgot about question number 8. So question number 8 is, what are the 2 deadly species that live on Fraser Island? Question number 8, what are the 2 deadly species that live on Fraser Island? So here are the questions on the board. So which country does the Galapagos belong to? Is the algae a producer or a consumer? True or false, endemic means that the animal only lives in one place. And question number 4, which 2 species in the Galapagos are symbiotic, as in best friends? Then, question number 5, name the endemic species in Borneo, my favourite animal. Then we were looking at the food chain in Botswana. So we've got long grass. What's eaten by the long grass? What's then eaten by that? And then what happens to that, or which species is it that eats it when it decomposes? Question number 7, how many scientists live in Antarctica? And question number 8, what are the 2 deadly species in or living on Fraser Island or in the ocean around it? Okay, I will come back with the answers in just a sec. Okay, so let's go through the answers. Right, answer number 1, the Galapagos Islands are found in Ecuador. Okay, algae, that is a producer. Remember, it makes its own food using sunlight and water. It is true, an endemic species is a species that is only found in one place on the earth. 4, the relationship, the symbiotic one that we were talking about between 2 species on the Galapagos, that is between the, what have I written? Nightingale and the marine iguana. Then number 5, the endemic species that we looked at in Borneo was the orangutan, obviously. Then our food chain or our ecosystem in Botswana, we've got grass, which is eaten by the zebra. Then we've got the zebra that's eaten by the lion. And then when the lion dies, then the vulture eats it. Okay, question number 7. There are 4,000 scientists that live on Antarctica. And then question number 8, which I've almost rubbed off my board, that is the king brown snake and the bull shark. So give yourself a mark out of 8, please. Don't worry if you got some wrong. I am starting to make these quizzes, as I say, a bit more complicated to test your memory a little bit more. And then let's crack on with today's session. Okay. So before we start today's lesson, we start looking at a specific country. I actually want to teach you something that you're going to need your big map of the world for. Now, what we've been doing over the last few weeks is we've been going and visiting different countries that are a different distance away from the equator. And depending on the distance away that they are from the equator, depends on what we find there. Now, if you think back to week 1, the first place we visited was the Antarctic, and there was one word to describe the temperature there, and that word was cold. Remember, it had gone down to minus, I think it was 158 degrees, which is literally the coldest place on Earth. Now, what we saw there was that there were penguins, and they had those cool adaptations that meant that they could live there. But we saw that there were only 2 types of plant, the hairgrass and one other, that were able to survive in those conditions. Then in week 2, we actually ventured further up towards the equator, and we went to Australia. And we saw there the bull shark, the king brown, and we talked about the plants there, and they were sort of tropical. We then popped over to Botswana, and we saw a different type of ecosystem there, and we looked at the fact there was longer grass. There wasn't a huge amount of rainfall, but that grass meant that we could have zebras and we would have lions and there could be vultures. Then we visited Borneo. Now, Borneo was right up on the equator, and right up on the equator we found tropical rainforest. We found the same thing over here last week when we looked at the Galapagos. Now, there is a reason for that. And the reason is, depending on how far away you are from the equator, there is a change in the temperature and a change in rainfall. And that change in temperature and that change in rainfall creates the climate. Now, the climate then dictates the ecosystem, so what plants it is that can and can't live there. Now, there are 6 major global ecosystems. There are more than that scientists argue about, but we're only interested really in these 6. So, I've done them in order, starting at the equator. So, At the equator, we are most likely to get tropical rainforest. Then, as you move a little bit further away from the equator, you get the savanna, which as you move a bit further away becomes desert, which then, when you get as far as the equator, away from the equator as we are in the UK, you get temperate forest. Then you get tundra, that's really far away from the equator. But when you are at the top and the bottom of the earth, that's when we get our polar regions. So you can see already, we've actually visited 3 of these ecosystems. We've looked at tropical rainforest because we went to Borneo and we went to Ecuador. We've looked at the savanna in Botswana, and we've looked at the polar ecosystem when we were in the Antarctica. So today's session, we're going to visit the tundra. Now, I want you to try and learn these, and I want you to try and learn these in the correct order, because this is going to help make a lot more sense once we've been to all of these different biomes and then we start to compare them. Okay, now for those of you that are watching really carefully then, you will notice that I've used 2 words to almost mean the same thing. The word ecosystem and the word biome. Now, a biome is an ecosystem, okay? It's a community of plants and animals that interact with their environment, so the amount of rainfall and the temperature. Now, the reason that I use the word biome is because when we're looking at ecosystems on a large global scale, like we are on our map here, we actually use the correct term, which is biome. So you'll hear me use ecosystem and biome interchangeably, as in I'll use one word and I mean it in the same way as I mean the other one. Okay, so what we're going to do now is this. I am going to teach you a fun way to remember the 6 different ecosystems or biomes. So we've got tropical rainforest on the equator, followed by the savanna, which is a little bit further away, followed by the desert, a bit further away, followed by the temperate forest, followed by the tundra, followed by the polar region. And what we've done is we've come up with a little phrase that can help you to remember this. Now, this little phrase is quite funny and it's a little bit naughty. So the phrase I want you to try and remember is the sad dog through the poo. Okay? So the sad dog through the poo. Have a look at the picture of the sad dog right now. Okay? So you've had a look at the saddest dog, he's so cute, isn't he? And then the poo. This is how to remember the names of the 6 global ecosystems and biomes, okay? So, the sad dog through the poo. T stands for tropical rainforest. S stands for savanna. D stands for desert. T stands for temperate forest. T stands for tundra. And P stands for polar. Have a look the other way around. Tropical rainforest, savanna, desert, temperate forest, tundra, and polar. Right, that is 100% going to be on the quiz next week. So your job this week is to use the acronym, the sad dog through the poo, to help you remember the names of the 6 global biomes. The reason we use the acronym is it helps us to remember them in the right order, and that is going to be so important moving forward if we want to start bringing together all the things that we've learned towards the end of this. Okay, so let's get cracking on today's session. Now, I said to you that we were going to visit somewhere today that is a lot colder. And actually, the place that we're visiting, the ecosystem we're going to have a look at, is in the tundra. So that is just a little bit warmer than the polar region, not a huge amount. Now, I'm going to show you a flag, and I would like you to have a look at the flag and see if you know, or you can find out, which country it is that we are visiting today. Okay, so you are absolutely right. Today, our session looks at Canada, which is in North America. Now, Canada is a country that I have never been to, but I would absolutely love to go. It's an amazing, amazing place for skiing, lots of snow and winter activities. And the animals and the plants that we're going to have a look at today, they are completely adapted to living in that very cold environment. Now, the first thing we're going to do today, you need your pencil and you need your piece of paper, because we are going to draw a typical Canadian landscape, okay? So, I'm going to start drawing on my page, and what we're going to start to do is Canada is actually quite mountainous, so we're going to draw an actual mountain range, okay? Just to give an idea of what that landscape might look like. So, first thing that I've drawn on the sheet, I don't know if you can see it, is just 3 peaks of different mountains. Now, to give the impression that they're cold, we're going to draw snow covering the top of them. Although, to be honest, this landscape is covered in snow pretty much 2/3 of the year round. It is freezing, so I've just drawn a little bit of snow at the top. This is going to start to look prettier in a minute. Now, what we're going to look at today is one type of plant that lives in this tundra, this cold environment. And the type of plant we're actually going to have a look at is a tree. And you guys will all be super familiar with this kind of tree, because there is, at one time of the year, a time when we put these trees up in our houses. And I think you know what I'm probably talking about. I'm talking about the Christmas tree. Now, a Christmas tree is actually an example of a fir tree. And a fir tree is typically found in Canada in places where the temperature is very cold. Now, as you might be able to remember, that type of tree is very different to many of the other trees that you will have in your garden, because it's something called coniferous. Now, this is a great word. So we're going to say it again, coniferous. Say it again. Say it really quietly, coniferous. Say it again really loud, coniferous. Okay, great word. What it means is a tree that never loses its leaves. So all year round, coniferous trees will have their leaves on them. Not like trees that we have in the UK, which actually during the autumn and into the winter, they lose their leaves. And then, as you remember, in the winter, often trees here don't have any leaves on them. A coniferous tree is green all year round. They're called evergreens. So what I would like you to do is to take your green pencil, mine might need a sharpen, and we are going to draw some coniferous trees. Now, they're super easy to draw because essentially they look just like Christmas trees. So I'm going to get one, and I am going to draw my brown trunk, and then coming off my brown trunk, I am going to draw my coniferous tree, which looks a little bit like that. Okay, so that's my drawing of a coniferous fir tree. Now, I think it might be nice on our landscape if we draw quite a lot of them. So I'm going to pause the video for a minute and let's cover our mountains in coniferous trees. Okay, so I have now got my Canadian landscape with my coniferous trees. Now, it's important that we take some notes about these trees. So at the bottom, I'm going to write that they are coniferous trees. Now, that is a tricky word to spell, and I've checked it to make sure I get it right. So coniferous trees. Okay, and the thing that I told you about them is that they are evergreen. They never lose their leaves. Now, you might be thinking, hang on a minute, Christmas trees don't have leaves. Christmas trees have got those little spikes on them, the needles that fall off on the ground that you have to hoover up all the time over Christmas. Now, they are actually leaves. Okay, those little spikes, they're green, and the plant or the tree uses them for photosynthesis. Now, the reason that they're so skinny is because it snows so often in Canada. Now, if they had a big leaf, like the ones you get on a tree in our garden that are that sort of, I suppose, like a traditional leaf shape, if they look like that, then actually what would happen is the snow would fall and it would sit on the top of the leaf, it would land on the top. And eventually, over time, that would get heavy and the leaf would snap off. Now, if that was to happen, the tree wouldn't be able to photosynthesize. So it wouldn't be able to make its own food and eventually it would die. So these trees are super clever. So they have those spiky, pointy needles of leaves because then the snow can't form on the top, which means that they won't get damaged and it just falls off and the trees can continue to photosynthesize and make their own food. Trees are cool, no matter what you say. So we've had a look at our producer within the ecosystem. So the next thing we need to have a look about is our first consumer, our herbivore, our plant-eating animal. And today what we're going to have a look at is something called the snowshoe hare. Now, I'm going to show you two pictures of the snowshoe hare. I want you to have a really good look at them. And I don't think it's going to be too difficult. But what's the difference between the two pictures that I show you of the snowshoe hare? Okay, so I will imagine that you've noticed the really important difference between those two photographs. One of those hares was white and one of those hares were brown, but they're exactly the same species. Now, this snowshoe hare is amazing because in the winter, when the snow falls, their fur turns white so that they are camouflaged against the snow. Then in the summer months, which isn't very long, the summer only lasts a couple of months in Canada, but when the summer comes, their fur changes colour and it goes brown because the snow's melted, so then they can start to blend in with the different trees and the different plants that live during those summer months. They're amazing. Now, the only other thing that I feel like I should tell you about the snowshoe hare, and I'm not entirely sure that it's relevant, but it is interesting, is that because they eat a lot of the coniferous plants, that actually isn't great for their stomach. So what they have to do to digest those coniferous plants is they have to eat their own poop. So the snowshoe hare both eats the plants and then to help them digest it, it then re-eats its own poop. There you go, fact of the day. Right, what I would like you to do now then is I would like you to draw a picture of the snowshoe hare at the bottom of one of your trees on your landscape, okay? I'll put the picture back up so that you can see it. Off you go. Okay, so another classic Krista drawing today. This is my snowshoe hare. Now, you can see I've put his label there, so he's a snowshoe hare. And then I've written the word herbivore, because a herbivore means a consumer, but that only eats plants. So I'm going to take my red pencil, like I have done the other weeks, and I'm going to draw an arrow from one of the trees to my snowshoe hare to show that the energy that the snowshoe hare gets is transferred to it by eating that coniferous plant. Right, the last thing we're going to have a look at today, and I am super excited about this because this animal is beautiful, and actually until I started researching this session, I didn't even know that this animal existed. So I'm going to put a picture of this up on the screen now. I want you to just take a really good look. Look at how beautiful this creature is. Look at the colour of its fur. Look at the size of its feet. Look at the little things it's got on its ears. Okay, have a quick look. Yeah, so how beautiful is that animal? Now that is actually called a Canadian lynx, okay? So it's a big cat. Now they are bigger than cats that we would have in our house, but they are probably not as big as a tiger might be. They're sort of in between size, and they're amazing. So the first thing I told you to have a look at was just how big their paws are. Now, the reason they have those big paws is to stop them sinking in the snow. Then they've got actually very, very short tails, which is quite unusual because we normally think about cats as having long tails. They make their den, so where they live is underneath the fallen coniferous trees. So if there's a fallen fir tree, they'll make a den underneath that fir tree. But the species that they eat, 75% of their diet is the snowshoe hare. So when there are more snowshoe hares, there are more Canadian lynxes. And actually, if there's ever a reason why there are less Canadian hares, then we get less Canadian lynxes. So I'm going to put that picture up. I would like you to add your Canadian lynx to your diagram, and remember to add the arrow showing the energy moving from the snowshoe hare into the Canadian lynx. Okay, amazing. Right, that has been our tour today around the tundra, which is in Canada, which is in North America. Now remember what I said is going to be on the quiz next week. I'm going to quiz you on the 6 global ecosystems, the biomes, starting at the equator and moving towards the poles. So remember, the sad dog through the poo, all right? T for tropical rainforest, S for savanna, D for desert, T for temperate forest, T for tundra, and P for polar. And then next week, we're going to visit the temperate forest. See you in a bit. Have a great week.